Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Collab, SpacetoCo's free monthly online sessions designed to assist those working in community venues to learn, upskill, and be inspired to do their work more effectively and efficiently. We hope you find these sessions useful for the important work you do in our local communities. For those of you who are watching this recording after this live event, hello, and we hope you get valuable knowledge from this session. My name is Carmela, and I organize these monthly learning series. Just a little bit about SpacetoCo before we move on. So, our mission in SpacetoCo is to help community venues be a thriving hub in their communities. We do so by providing opportunities to be able to grow bookings, increase community engagement, as well as support. We also create and provide free resources for those working in community venues. SpacetoCo is a two-sided marketplace where you can list your spaces where guests can find and book them online. It is also an efficient booking system tool where you can reduce your admin by 80%. We work with a number of local governments as community centers across Australia, New Zealand, and now the UK. Today's session is Your Data, Your Story, Turning Numbers into Impact. And today's webinar is designed to be hands-on for community center and council teams ready to make their impact impossible to ignore. You'll learn how to transform the data you already collect into compelling narratives for annual reports, grant proposals, and social media. No data expertise required. And we're so excited to have Elle back today. Well, she's never left because she's part of the SpacetoCo team, integral. But for those of you who have never met Elle has worked with hundreds of local community venues to help them move to online bookings, create better processes, and provide heaps of guidance on how to market and grow the impact of the spaces for the local community. Just wanted to welcome back Elle, and so I'm just going to add her on the stage and also her PowerPoint. Here we go. There we go, Elle. I'm going to remove myself. Floor is yours.
Hello. It's lovely to see so many new and familiar faces on the chat, and I've had a lot of fun creating this collab session, and I guess the origination of this comes from some time I spent traveling around a few community centres, in particular in the UK, and one of the topics that came up a lot was, how do we communicate impact? How do we prove our value as an organization? And in particular, and I think this is a UK thing, but it's becoming very, very prevalent everywhere. How do we communicate social value of what we do? So I'm going to sort of touch on a number of different ways that you can use existing and very simple data to create some compelling stories. Hopefully, even if you don't use the different ideas that I'm going to share, hopefully it will inspire you to have a play with your data, with whatever kind of AI tools that you have available, to see what you can do, see what it can help you create. So what I'm going to cover today, and I'm not showing the whole slides because I've got to skip around my tabs a lot. You can see lots of tabs that I'm going to share with you. So firstly, I'm going to talk about how to communicate impact. Then I'm going to talk about, how to use your data and what are some of the key data points that it's worth collecting, whichever booking system you're using. And then I've got 5 super practical examples of ways that you can use your data, plus some very simple AI prompts to create impact stories that could be used for grants, grant proposals, social media, anything really that is the medium you need that for. And then there'll be plenty of time and space, hopefully, for Q&A and discussion. So just thinking about how do we communicate our impact as a community facility, community venue, is starting with the right question. So a lot of people talk about, what did we deliver this year? But if we're thinking about impact, a better question is, what changed because we exist? So that could be for the local community. It could be another stakeholder for your centre. But what what changed because we exist? And you can ask yourself that question as a way to kind of prompt a framing point for your telling your impact story. So impact communication isn't about just listing activities and numbers. It's about showing the difference that your centre, your space makes. It's about really bringing alive the mission and purpose of your centre. So there are different ways that we can communicate real value, and it's not to be said that outputs are not important. So it is important to sort of say what you delivered, particularly if your funding is based on delivering a specific project or initiative. And there is heaps of data that can help tell this story. So what were the programs that you ran? How many attendees were there? And this is, really important for sort of demonstrating the numbers of what's going on in your space. The second thing you can think about is outcomes. So that question, what changed for the people? So did the 20 participants on the fermentation class gain new skills? Can you demonstrate evidence that you've brought disparate parties together for connection, or that you've helped break down silos in communities? Or that, for the people that came to the CV creating workshop, how many of them went on to find employment or have been able to give a testimonial that said that it's really helped them gain their confidence in their job search? And then the last thing to think about in terms of communicating value is, what does it mean for the place where you exist? So this is about thinking about what your centre's delivered in the context of your area. So if you're in an area that has, particular deprivation, maybe it's a very multicultural neighbourhood where cohesion's important. Maybe it's an area that's been impacted by a huge, environmental event, or has had to call on sort of emergency management. What does what you're doing mean for the place? And that's putting it in the context of community value. And a sort of good framing device as a way to sort of use your data in a way that can start to tell this story. And I've talked about this before on a previous collab called activating community venues, is determining as part of your strategy or your mission statement, what are the ways in which your specific centre delivers value? And you could call these kind of value pillars or value domains, or however you want to frame it. These are sort of just 20 ideas of what might be the things that your centre focuses on. So, if you're in an area that has lots of young families, but also lots of aging families, maybe it's intergenerational connection. Maybe your particular venue has a real focus on opening up affordable access to the arts or rehearsal facilities. Maybe you have a real focus on mental health. You don't need to pick lots of these, but thinking about the top 3 to 5 that your centre really focuses on. An example I can think of locally for me in Auckland is St Luke's. They have a real focus on restorative justice. Like, that's a really important pillar for them. And another important pillar is music as well. So just getting clear on those will help you frame your data and tell the story of how you're actually achieving delivering that value for your communities. And I'd love to, I'm just going to drop into the group discussion. If you could share on the group chat, and I'll pop this screen back on, but do any of these resonate with you? Do you have a clear set of values or value pillars that your centre kind of strives to deliver on? And do you have any ways that you currently measure this value? So I'll just pause for a second, and I'd love to see in the chat whether those resonate with any of you. I'll pop it just for a second. I'll pop it back on here so you get an idea of them. And hello to the new joiners who joined since I started talking. Oh, that's interesting. So unspoken values, so not measured. Yeah, so maybe this is a sort of way of helping to find those values. Connie, creative arts and culture. Yes, yeah. So Connie runs a rehearsal facility in Auckland, and definitely I know they deliver on that hugely. The value thing is important because it's not only a way of sort of framing the value your centre can create, but it also helps you make decisions around what's important to your centre. Especially when resources are tight, it can help you decide where to focus your resources. Please keep sharing on the chat, but I'm going to move on and start to just talk a little bit more about how you tell a good value story before I go into the examples I want to share. So telling a good value story, you can think about it in terms of an impact equation. The three sort of parts to it are data. So using your data from whichever booking system or methodology you use to collect that data, could be a spreadsheet, could be a booking platform. And then pairing that with the context, so that your local context, where you know that you're, the particular people that you're serving, and then a human detail, which just brings it to makes it really specific, really brings it to life, and just sort of tells that whole story. So if I put that all together into a sentence. So 847 visits to our seniors program in a suburb where 1 in 3 residents over 65 lives alone, including Margaret, who hasn't left her house a week before she found us, tells a really complete story about the fact that you're running the seniors program has had this impact on the residents, and in particular, there's a story that really makes it feel real and alive. And so when you, I'm going to go into some examples for different ways you can sort of share your impact story, but there are lots of different places where this can really help you elevate your communications, your grant pitches, your annual reports or quarterly reports. It's stuff that you can share on social media. And it's also stuff that you can share at your centre, be it in any brochures or posters that you have, just to reinforce the message that you're important and that you need their support to keep going. The data that I'm going to use in these examples is not really complicated data. It's just sort of the basics of bookings names, dates, attendees. You'll likely have at your organisation lots of different sources of data. It's just about pulling into a spreadsheet the basic columns that you need. Might involve a little bit of cleaning it up, but once you've got it, you can kind of use that data to tell different stories in different ways. If there's one thing I hope that you take from this presentation is that have a play. Go and grab some data from whatever tool you're using, and have a play with some of the ideas I've given you, and see what you can create that will be purposeful and unique to your centre. So the 5 examples I'm going to just cover briefly now are a quarterly report that shows how the activities that you have at your centre support your value pillars. I'm going to show how you can use reviews to sort of have that more human story, and show that, and again, show how that maps to the value pillar. I'm going to use a really underutilized report or data point, which is discounting, which is a very tangible way of showing a give back that your centre creates for the community. I'm going to use location to show where you have impact. And then I'm going to use bookings data to calculate a really tangible ratio of value exchange that your centre creates. as I go through this, I'm going to cover a lot quite quickly, but we have a really comprehensive handout that covers each one of these. It has the resources you need to recreate it. So if you're sort of scribbling down notes or trying to sort of take notes as you go, don't worry too much. Firstly, the recording will be available to you, and secondly, we've got you covered. We've got heaps of notes for this. So yeah, I hope you can get as much as you can out of it as I kind of speed through some of these, because and there's also going to be an element, I'm going to try and create them on the fly. So we'll see how that goes as I do that live. So the first one is impact from activities. And this is an example here, which I'll show you in a little more detail in a second. But the data points I'm using here is just the date of the booking, the category of the booking, the booking name, the attendee number, the organisation of the customer's name or organisational group, and then their postcode. So if you're one of SpacetoCo's customers, this is all in your bookings report. So you can configure all the columns to have these specific points. And I think we're also sending out an example CSV so you can see which columns to use. But this is just a real basic bookings report. So this is in your group by booking SpacetoCo reports. If you use another booking system, as long as you have the equivalent columns here, it doesn't matter. You just need a CSV export or a table that contains your last quarterly bookings. And once you have that, the other thing you need is a prompt, which you can pop into an AI tool of your choice. So ChatGPT, Claude, whichever one you prefer using. And we're going to give you this kind of recipe book, these prompts afterwards. But it really is that simple of just upload the data, give it a good prompt, and then it's going to spit out a report. So I'm just going to show you live how you would do that and how long it takes. So we're going to hope this works. So this is the Excel spreadsheet that I just showed you that has the bookings data in for the last quarter. It's all dummy data. And then this is the prompt. And in the prompt recipe that we've given you, we've left some space for you to put your own value pillars in. And then we're just going to upload it to the tool, and it's going to hopefully, fingers crossed, spit out the report. And while it's doing that, because it will take a little bit of time, I'm just going to show you one I made earlier. And for any of you that are familiar with Blue Peter, I feel like a Blue Peter presenter. Maybe that's a very British reference. But this is the report that I made earlier from my CSV and the prompt that I've just popped into AI. So this is a community impact report. What it's showing is the total number of attendees from all the bookings. It's told you how many organisations and groups were part of those bookings, how many regular groups, and also how many different suburbs that the customer bookings were from. And then what it's done is it's grouped the bookings by those value pillars that we told it to, and it's listed, what it's included as part of those value pillars. And then sort of aggregated the data points. Now, it may be that you need to sort of correct it on some of the pairings it's made, because it's kind of using its own intelligence to determine which of your booking categories are sort of within which domain. So you can always use, you can give it feedback and get it to regenerate these things. But I think this is a really nice way of sort of showing each quarter, how are you delivering programming? How are people making bookings that are really linked to the value that your centre wants to deliver, and how that's reflected in the numbers? So this is a nice, I think this is a nice example of sort of outputs and a little bit of outcomes for the community. So that's the first example. Let's just go back to Claude and see how it's doing. And there we go. It has done a slightly different formatting. It's still going, but essentially it's started to build the report while I've been presenting. And once it's done, you can tell it to maybe create a PDF view. You could tell it to be, what I've done is ask it to be HTML so that I can see it in a web browser and I can copy and paste things. But yeah, you can see that took one spreadsheet, one prompt, and you're able to create quite a neat looking report here that would look great, I think, in a quarterly report or an annual report. So the second example I'm going to give you is, going back to my presentation, is how you can use your review data. So you might collect reviews from different sources. So if you're on Google Maps, you will have publicly available reviews here, which you can find by just going into Google Maps and finding your centre. You may have collected reviews through Facebook or other social media channels. And if you're on SpacetoCo, you can also find and export your in-platform reviews in the report section in reviews, and you can create a report of all of your publicly available reviews, which will come out as a CSV that looks something like this. So again, we've got our source data here that's all ready to go. And in this prompt for the second report, what I'm asking it to do is look at your publicly available reviews, and you can tell it where to look for that. Look at the reviews I'm uploading via CSV. Map it to the pillars, your own pillars. And then what it's going to do is create a report that looks something like this, which is called Community Voice Impact in Action. And it's summarizing the voices of the people that have left a review for your venue. And it's categorizing them again into value pillars. It's summarizing your rating. But it just shows going back to that idea of like real human voices when we're telling impact stories. You know, we're able to see what people are saying about your venue and, you know, why it's important to them. So really nice space, clean and great for small, medium groups, the perfect neutral ground for our congregation. So, you know, providing that welcoming, neutral space for your communities, and it's all kind of cleanly laid out in a neat report. So that is review data. The next data point I'm going to use is discounts, and this one came actually from a lot of conversations I was having with community centres who want to be able to quantify how much discounting actually is giving back to their community. So I'll give a couple of examples of how you might use discount codes. So you may use discount codes for people in your postcode. So you may have a location-based discount. You may have a discount that supports a specific line of programming that your centre is keen to invest in. So maybe it's environmental cleanup or pride or whatever it might be. Or you might use discounts as a way to support activation within your community. So, for example, I know that some centres will give a 50% discount on a room booking for the first 5 sessions of a new regular hire booking, so that it lowers the barrier to entry for someone starting the yoga group, the choir, for example. And this is one that's so tangible in terms of communicating a real, you know, give back to the community, because it is a monetary discount that can be calculated. So again, we have a piece of source data for this, which is a CSV, and this is a really quite easy to get hold of in reports. So this is, if you're going to, again, whatever booking tool you use, as long as you're sort of logging your discount somewhere, you can create the same structure of table. But in SpacetoCo, you can group by discount. It'll give you your discount codes, the rate that's been applied, the value of the discount that's been achieved through the bookings, how many bookings it's applied for, etc. You can export that. That'll give you a really simple table like this. And then using that and our recipe prompt, which just asks you to sort of tell the tool what your discount codes mean, because they might be gunk, they might be like total gobbledygook in terms of the actual codes. So you can tell it what the codes mean and why they're important to you. And once you add both that prompt and the table, you can get something that looks like this. So this is the total value that you've given back, the bookings that you supported, the causes you supported, and the groups in the organisation. So for example, I chose 4 different discount programs. And again, if you use discount, so some centres use discount codes for all manner of reasons. You can tell it which ones you want to actually report on. You don't have to, some of them might just be used for honouring historical pricing or other, sort of more admin related things. But for the ones that are a cause or a give back or something that you could be reporting on in terms of impact, you can use this to show that, for example, local pride groups, we gave back 2.5 grand in discounting. It affected 51 bookings, and 3 groups were able to use this. This is the example of that new community groups one where, it had the first 5 free bookings were 100% discounted. So we gave back that amount, and that enabled 5 new groups to use the space. And this is what they were. And it just summarises them at the bottom. So I really like this one as a way of just showing a really tangible figure of sort of annually, this is how much we've supported local community groups through discounting. So that is number 4, I think, in the list. And oh no, it's number 3. The next one is 4 or 5. So this is impact from location. And this is looking a bit more about the context that we talked about earlier, about, who and where are we supporting in our community. So for this example, I still use the same original, bookings output that I used before. It does tell you the suburb, but you can also use the postcode for this as well. And what I asked it to do in the prompt was, I just scroll down, was basically to create a sort of heat map of where the bookings were coming from across the city. So these were all in Auckland, and you can see most of the bookings came from Sandringham, but in fact, the customers booked from over 30 different suburbs, which is showing that the reach of the impact of the centre is going far beyond the immediate postcode of the centre. So this is a nice way of showing that the activities that are being booked or the programming that's happening at your centre is actually reaching way more, well beyond the sort of boundaries of the centre itself. So I think this is just a neat way of summing that up. You can get quite creative with how you want it to represent this data. I thought a simple sort of block diagram was fun, but you can really start to play with how that's represented for your town or your city or your area. And the last one, which is I've saved to last because it has a little bit more to it, so bear with me. But I think it's actually the most impactful as a way of representing value. And some of you may be familiar with this, but this is a sort of international standard for how you can calculate social return on investment. So this is a way of communicating how the money that's invested in your centre actually returns on value for the communities you serve. I just think it's a really tangible way, especially for funding or grants, of saying, for every $1 invested, we can generate $4 of value in return, or whatever the ratio is when you've done the sort of calculation. So the calculation is reasonably simple, but there's a little bit behind it that I'm going to touch on. And again, I have documented all of this in a handout if you want to learn more. And there is heaps of online resources on SROI as a measure. But basically, it's a ratio. So it's the community value you create divided by the operating costs gives you the ratio. And so what you're looking for as an output is, for every X we spend, we get Y in return. And it's a really simple way of saying, well, if you give us $20,000 for our next set of programming, we think we can, turn that into $80,000 of community value. So there are a few different steps to creating it, which I'll quickly run through, and I'm going to show you a really clear example of how it looks and how it can be calculated. And don't worry, you will not have to do all this maths yourself. So firstly, you want to be really clear on your scope and stakeholders. Then you want to map your outcomes, which is again using those value pillars that we talked about. So how does what you do at the centre map back to that? You then want to assign a sort of relative value to the activities that you're supporting so that it can start to calculate that output. But with that value calculation comes a sort of a weighting on the other side to say, well, not everything we're doing, is worth this. So we need to sort of be realistic. It adds an element of realism or adjustments to the values that you're estimating. And then you should be able to calculate the ratio. So as an example, just to go through the sort of worked example that we've been using, your scope and stakeholders would be, the centre. So we've used the fictional Auckland Community Centre. This is a very important number to know, which is what is your running cost? So in terms of investment, how much does it cost to run your centre? Or maybe you're looking at a centre level or maybe a programme level. So this SRI doesn't need to be for the whole centre. It could be for a programme or a particular initiative. What is the cost of running that initiative? What is the cost of running the centre? So for this example, I've calculated a 40k operating costs for staff, maintenance, etc. So across a quarter, that's 120. Who are your stakeholders? So who benefits? Is there any scope or boundary to what you're calculating? So we're just looking at activities in the centre. And then what's your data source? So again, we're going to use this data source that we used at the start, which is just your output of your bookings. And then you can do the mapping. So what are your value pillars and how do the bookings that you've got going on at your centre map to those value pillars? So you've got those kind of broader categories established. And then this is the bit that's a bit of you have to have a play with it. So for each of your category groups, you want to try and find a value proxy for it. So what is the sort of economic benefit of delivering that? So an example is for health and well-being, are we helping people avoid going to the GP or spending on a private gym session? Counselling sessions, are we avoiding people having to go to a one-to-one counselling session, and the value proxy for that might be $45 an hour if they were to go private, or maybe more. And you can kind of play and tweak with this until it feels about right. It cannot be 100% accurate. It is a proxy, and that's why we have the adjustments as well to sort of temper the value that comes out. But essentially what happens here is, because you know what the value proxy is, you know your attendees and how many hours of sessions you had, you can then calculate a gross value from that, which is the total value that all the bookings across these categories sort of achieved over the period that you're measuring. And then we then determine, and these are standard in terms of these adjustments. And again, don't worry about this too much. I'm going to show a very simple way of doing this. But the 4 categories are, well, how much would have happened anyway if your centre didn't exist? Could they have found an alternative venue? What share of the attribution of value belongs to other parties? So are you partnering with, a really significant third party on delivering this? Does it shift value from elsewhere? Are there other centres that you're sort of taking from by delivering this? And then do the benefits reduce over time? So fitness, probably not, but individual kind of celebrations, maybe. And then that gives you a sort of a discount factor that you apply to the gross value that gives you the net value. So in this one, we're sort of timesing the total value we came up with here by the net value. By this percentage to give us a more realistic figure. So it's just a way of kind of tempering the value proxy achieved by saying, well, realistically, people could go elsewhere, or realistically, the benefit might drop over time. And again, it's an art, not a science. And that gives you your ratio. So if your net value turned out to be this and your operating costs are this, then for every dollar spent, you've achieved $3 in return for your community. And this is an example of what it looks like, and I'm actually just going to show you. So in the prompt recipe, what we've built for you here is, firstly, I've written up all of that information about how that's calculated. But what we've done is we've built you a prompt that will help you create a calculator. So if you upload your bookings data here and you put in your operating costs, you can define your categories, and you can have a play with the proxies and see how changing those changes if we say actually the cost of private is slightly lower or slightly higher, you can change those up to see how it adjusts the value. And that will, again, that will sort of help you just play and tweak to sort of sense what feels right. Same with those adjustments. So again, you can sort of tweak those adjustments and it will tweak what the overarching ratio is. So for every $1 invested, for this particular example, the community receives $4.65 in social value. Again, as I said at the start, I think this one's the most powerful one because it's a kind of a North Star metric. It can be used for individual programs or initiatives. It can be used for your whole center. It's a really good storytelling data point that helps you sort of really show that you're getting return on investment. But it's not without it is an estimation. So it is a little bit of you have to play with it. What I would say though is, in terms of these value proxies, there are heaps of publicly available data sources that can help you calculate. There is lots and lots of stuff on the internet about social return on investment if you want to really dive into it. Just have a play and see what you can come up with for your center. So I think that is everything I wanted to show you. I would love to know if there are any questions on anything I've presented, on any other questions on sort of types of data that you could use. Let's head back to the chat.
Awesome. Thanks, Elle. While people are probably thinking about what questions they may have, or if you want Elle to show you something to clarify certain things, or if there's something that she may have missed, do pop it into the chat. But while that's happening, I just wanted to share how I'm not a numbers gal, but I really enjoyed that because at the end of the day, it encapsulates your why as a venue. And it's not always all about the numbers. The numbers just reinforce the why and the story of your venue. And so I think it was really cool to see like how the different types of reports showcase that. So thank you so much, Elle. One question that came up to me, because you did say just maybe for people who would like some ideas, because you said that these things can be utilized for people's social media or marketing. How would you personally like present that in that way?
I honestly think the best use for this particular stuff I showed is annual reports. So especially if you're a community trust, you will have to do an annual report as part of your reporting. So I think that's probably the best place for it. The second one is grant proposals. So often grant proposals or funding applications require you to, sort of demonstrate impact, or at least how you will demonstrate the impact of the spend. So they could be either as part of the proposal, or often grant or funding providers ask you to create an impact report of the money that you have been given. So that's why I really love that last example of SROI, because if you were given $20,000 to set up a kids holiday program, you could use that as a way of saying, well, we were able to achieve $100,000 of community venue as a result of this funding.
Mm.
That shows, firstly, the impact of, that's a great good news story for the funder, but it also will help you in that next application to say, well, give us 100K next time and we can deliver 500K's worth of value. I mean, if only it was that easy to get that funding. But yeah, I think those are the top two I'd use it in.
Yeah, awesome. One question that Teresa had is, where are the best places to look for guidance on social return on investment stats?
I will. So just there is a heap out there. If literally, if you just Google social return on investment. So the reason I sort of the source I came across social return on investment originally was actually Hacked, which is HACT, which is a UK-based member body for housing associations. Housing associations are a huge provider of community facilities in the UK and often have to demonstrate social value as part of their funding models. And Hacked actually have a tool that helps them sort of do that. But it's becoming more and more, I'm noticing that it's becoming more and more required for organizations seeking funding to be able to quantify the value through something like a framework like SROI. So I suspect, and I've seen also in a couple of, for example, I looked at the annual report for Queensland neighbourhood houses, and they use SROI as a way to demonstrate the benefit for the members of Queensland neighbourhood houses. So it's definitely something that I think is going to come to Australia and New Zealand.
And also for those of you who may be a bit averse to AI, I know that maybe some of you guys are probably like, oh, they're just gonna give us everything. Don't be afraid to use AI. I used to be an AI hater, and then I just realized you just need to be quite precise in your prompts to get the outcomes that you want. And one thing, as Elle said, it was really cool. Like, go back to AI, like, kind of fight it a little bit if it's not spitting out the things that you're actually wanting, because that's how the AI will learn to give you the most accurate detail or data that you need for your reports. And so, yeah, like make a conversation with your preferred AI LLM. Derek sent a question. It said, it would be great if we can build a library for all of us to share reports and examples, without numbers.
Oh yeah, I love that. Like a sort of like community recipe book for prompts. Yeah, like I think that would be great. I wonder if there's a way we could make that happen on through Facebook or something. But yeah, we're going to send you essentially like a recipe book of prompts. Yeah, it'd be amazing if we had like a little Google, like shared Google Doc for everyone to sort of share what they're working on. But yeah, as Carm says, there's heaps of value that the sort of combination of your data and AI can create. And I also encourage you, because I think this is one of the most, if you're on SpacetoCo, is really dive into the reports section, because you can do a lot with those reports. A lot of people don't realize you can report on discount codes, which is why I was really keen to show that one, because I think it has huge value.
And also, just a reminder to everyone, like this is as Elle mentioned, this is an opportunity for you guys to explore and play. Elle gave 5 examples of certain types of reports that you can create or utilize with AI, but you can literally like ask AI to create you other kinds of reports if the ones presented today were not necessarily the ones that you were looking after.
Or ask it to tell you trends or analysis. So I think someone asked about, we want to see insights from our data. Great, like upload it, ask insights. Be careful with free versions in terms of data integrity. So just check that it's not going to use your data somewhere else. Just always be careful with uploading. I should have said that at the start. Be careful with uploading data into free AI tools, or maybe you've ticked the box that means that data is not going to go anywhere, or anonymize the data so that it doesn't have, for example, you don't have to have the customer's name in it. You can just have their postcode and the group name, for example. Do be very careful with the data. With great data comes great responsibility.
There you go. Thank you,
I
Uncle
did put
Ben.
a warning sign at the start.
But yeah, also, as Elle was kind of presenting, it was kind of cool, even as Teresa said, the SROI stuff. Like, if these are things that you have necessarily never like touched on, like just attempt it and see how much, and you'll learn so much about how much your community venue is actually giving back, whether through discounts or what your communities are actually saying about your venues. Because I think a lot of us can get caught up in the admin side of things or just the everyday running of our venues. That when it comes to reports and the data, you just think like it's quite a tedious task, but actually, it's a great way for you as well to learn how much your venue is actually doing well in your local communities.
Mm.
So thank you, everybody, and thank you so much in particular, Elle, because it's not easy running a collab like this. There's lots of research, and so everyone, you're more than welcome to send your love and your big thanks to Elle via the chat. It's really cool. Even Sheridan has already said this session was a game changer. So massive thank you, Elle.
Great. Well, thank you for having me, Gums, and yeah, happy playing with your data and infographics. And send us any examples that you come up with. I'd love to see them. That'd be great.
Yeah. Maybe we can share it around, and then that can be the shareable Google Doc that everyone can be, and then everyone can share their prompts and stuff.
Yeah, get sharing impact.
Yeah. So I might kick Elle out. Sorry, Elle. See you later. But before everybody goes, oh, we got heaps of time. Hopefully, we can give you 5 minutes back of your time. Oh wait, let's remove Elle. Bring my PowerPoint back. But before you guys go, it's not over. You guys get more resources. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, SpacetoCo creates numerous amounts of resources available for all of you, not just SpacetoCo customers, but for everybody who works in community venues or councils, housing associations, and more. Regardless of what type of community venue you have, we have all types of resources available for you. We've actually been creating quite a lot recently, like literally in the past few months. We've developed a utilization toolkit for you guys to also practically understand how your venue is operating and how you can maximize a lot of your operations. So come do check that out. Explore our resource-averse. I hope that was a great thing for me to say, but I'm just getting it from Uncle Ben slash L's vibes. But other than that, we will also send this link out to you guys. So it's just an easy one click, and then from there, explore what you want. And we've already gotten our topic for next month, which is quite exciting. So for those of you who want to join us in this particular topic, our next collab will be on event risk management for councils and community venues. And it will be on Tuesday, the 23rd of June. So the little description we have is, you're creating a vibrant, connected community events, but are you fully protected when things go wrong? Join us for a practical webinar designed for council and community venue teams ready to move past tick box compliance and build bulletproof event safety. We're sitting down with internationally recognized risk specialist Wayne Middleton from Reliance Risk to break down how to confidently manage public safety, rising insurance pressures, and unpredictable weather disruptions without buried in confusing legal jargon. So if that's something of interest to you or somebody else in your team, please register and join us. But yeah, other than that, look, 8 minutes back of your time. That's what SpacetoCo is all about, giving you time back. So thank you, everybody, for joining us once again for this month's collab. We hope that you have a great week ahead. And thank you again for all the amazing work you do in our local communities. Goodbye, everybody.